Okay, let's get settled and we will kick off the second part of the morning here. Okay, our next speaker is Carlos Carbonell. He is the founder and CEO of Echo Interaction Group. They are a company that designs solutions for all sorts of companies, very large and also smaller local companies. Carlos has been named one of the 50 most powerful people in Orlando. He has been on several lists that are a testament to his connection to this community and his participation, both with the Orlando Economic Partnership, with the Orlando City government, and a number of other pieces. He's a great guy to know. He's a great friend of mine, and he is going to be really an interesting person to listen to for a little bit. And he's got a little surprise for you, too. So without further ado, I should also add that like many of our speakers, Carlos is also a graduate of Leadership Orlando, class something he doesn't quite remember. 68, 70, somewhere in that region. All right. Okay, without further ado, Carlos Carbonell.
Thank you. Oh, I don't know. Thank you. Yeah, really, really honored to be here. But I, again, can't remember what class I was in, but that tells you how long I've been in this community, and I'm very proud of this community. I am one of those Orlando evangelists, also tech community evangelist. I am not a Metaverse evangelist, but I'm going to talk about the Metaverse. I'm a Metaverse realist, and I want everybody, when we lead today, to be the same way. Because with all technology and new technology, we have to take it with a dose of skepticism. So first of all, I need a little favor from you guys. You know how everybody says, turn your ringer off, turn the volume off. I want you to turn it on and leave it on. If somebody calls you, just, we'll look at you, scowl, but then, just turn it off. But leave it on, and then grab your camera, point at that QR code, and you're going to download an application real quick. So do that, and that's part of the little surprise. So while you're doing that, we'll just, it's going to, it's going to send you some cryptocurrency. That's worthless right now, like all of it. Exactly. There you go. And one thing I know about Leadership Orlando is that for me it was really fun, and it was very interactive. I learned a lot. I knew very little back then. I was a budding leader and executive. I hadn't even started my company. It actually inspired me to start my company. So I do want to say that some of you are going to leave Leadership Orlando inspired to perhaps start a side gig, start a company, change roles, expand your roles. I'm a big fan of entrepreneurship, so you could start something new within your company. So again, this is a really, really fun group to be in class to be in. So hopefully I make it fun as well. All right, so I know it's already been asked, how many people know about the metaverse? Raise your hands. I mean, exactly, right now, everybody should raise their hands, right? But you're not alone. Actually, it's said that only 17% of Americans can accurately define what the metaverse is, which, by the way, I don't think anybody could accurately define something that's actually kind of undefined and that will evolve. But at the beginning of the year, something like 30-something% of people were aware of the metaverse, and by now, statistics show that it's over 70%. So you are all aware of the metaverse. You just don't want to say you know the exact definition. So that tells you something. And I think that what it really tells you is that, could you imagine how many people within your organizations are curious about the metaverse, are talking about the metaverse? Your executives, your C-suite, they're talking about the metaverse. Your employees are talking about the metaverse and getting exposed to it. Now, that definition is actually going to evolve, and we'll talk a little bit about that. So is it realistic? Is it hype? I think it's a little of both, again. And with that comes its drawbacks, because there is something called the hype cycle. And when something falls off that hype cycle, that means that it has reached ubiquity. This is a way to know what technologies are coming and knowing if they're going to impact society and if they're going to become part of our everyday lives. And it's already off the hype cycle, meaning that there's other technologies that we need to look at, but it doesn't necessarily mean that anything having to do with AR, VR, and the metaverse is part of our everyday lives and that it really, truly impacts our everyday lives as it will in the future. So, Ready Player One. How many people? I'm an expert at Photoshop. How many people saw this movie or read the book? A lot of you guys, right? And this is what now media is feeding us, that the metaverse is going to be like, but it's not. And why? Because technology is usually more mundane than we imagine it to be. It's actually, once we really adopt technology, we're not sitting there and looking at our phones and saying every day, like, wow, this is just really changing my... It doesn't happen. You just incorporate it into your everyday lives. It changes your lives. And also, it's not necessarily a term that gets used. We may not necessarily say every day, hey, I'll meet you in the metaverse. That's not really how it's going to work. So again, we need to make sure that we're aware of it, and that it is going to be mundane. It is going to be something that needs to be talked about, but also viewed with that degree of skepticism that I talked about. The other thing is, we're about a decade away. The data shows, or experts say, that we're about a decade from the metaverse being fully realized by its definition. And its definition currently, and again, you've heard it on and off mentioned here, and you've heard it through media, but it's essentially the internet in 3D. That is a basic definition of what the metaverse is. The other elements of the metaverse that need to happen, there you go, to somebody's phone, I love it. The other aspects of the definition of the metaverse that we need to really think about is that it's the interconnectivity between every single virtual world that exists. You should be able to go seamlessly from world to world and have that experience throughout every single aspect of your life. But what I want you to think about the metaverse, and again, is not a new concept. That actually, the term was coined and started getting used many, many years ago, is that the metaverse is a medium through which we are going to experience every single aspect of our life in both physical and digital aspects. That is what the metaverse will be and how it's going to impact our life. It's actually a medium. So why now? And we asked ourselves, again, I just said that the metaverse is not a new concept, but we are also asked ourselves, why is it that we're hearing so much about it? And is it really just a trend? Is it an emergent trend, or is something that, again, is reaching that point that will eventually reach ubiquity? And one important thing, do we need to pay attention to it? By show of hands, how many people are in healthcare? It's definitely going to impact healthcare. Actually, it's one of the #1 industries where these technologies that are either metaverse adjacent or that have elements of the metaverse is already basically being used. They're already being used, and they're extremely impactful. How many people are in marketing? Marketing is, I draw similarities between the metaverse and social media. There was a time when in the marketing world, if somebody walked in and talked about being on social media, 12 years ago, and if you're in brand marketing, advertising, you'd be laughed at. And now, how many people are basically in social media? Every single one of us is in social media. Every single brand is in social media. So again, this happens slowly, but it will happen with the metaverse, and it's going to impact marketing. I could go on and name industry after industry, including legal, real estate. Every single industry is going to be impacted by the metaverse, and therefore, you need to be aware and make your companies aware of it. Now, these are some of the actual trends and what has happened. And again, I'm not going overly technical here. This is something that you're going to be able to talk about and not just regurgitate, because you understand these things. The world has gotten more visual. So our constant absorption trajectory has been very text-based. And then it went to photos, and then video. And again, very visual. So what's next? 3D objects, augmented reality, virtual reality. That's where things are going. And infrastructure improvement, that also has accelerated this trend and will continue to accelerate. Connectivity is better than ever right now. And it's becoming to that point where everybody has access to the internet. Again, it's not really something that is everywhere at the same speeds, but this is a big catalyst in how the metaverse is really going to become part of our everyday lives. Hardware evolution. I say something that, again, it's already happening and you see it, but these devices and technological devices are getting closer to ourselves, closer to the body. I mean, in terms of computing, it used to be big mainframes, and then we went to desktops, and then we went to laptops, then tablets and phones, then smartwatches, and now we're going to go towards the other types of wearables that are closer to our bodies, to the point, and again, I don't want to be crazy futurist, but contact lenses, actually, injected devices, those type of things. So those are catalysts that are really helping the metaverse. There's something, I posted something on LinkedIn about a leaked article, and I keep posting these leaked articles and things and rumors that are coming out that Apple is actually going to finally announce in 2023 that they're going to have their mixed reality, augmented reality headset, meaning that, and again, all the R's, right? AR, VR, MR, XR. XR is a global term, extended reality. AR is augmented reality, VR is virtual reality, and MR is mixed reality. So when we talk about the metaverse and these devices, MR is really the term that we should be using, because mixed reality is when these digital objects that are overlaid in our physical environment could be interacted with. So in any case, so Apple is going to announce that device next year. They've been waiting for a while. The way that we track this is by the hires that they make, by things that are getting put out to the developer community first, because they like to build an ecosystem first. And we saw that with the smartphone. I mean, that's when iPhones came out and when they developed the actual app ecosystem, because there were apps before, that's when we got to the point that we got to with smartphones. So I really firmly believe, and a lot of experts believe, that is going to be a huge catalyst. When we have that wearable that everybody wants to wear, that's not necessarily just a luxury item, and that it has practical uses, and it's not just for the military or anything like that. And then, again, we've talked about this, but the Facebook rebrand. I mean, freaking Mark. He, smart. He basically bogarted the term. But when I told you that we went from 30-something% at the beginning of the year to something like 70% people are aware of the metaverse, it's because of Facebook. I mean, to a degree, I'm a feet firmly planted as a Gen Xer, or the world's oldest millennial, as I like to say, and but I guarantee you that your children, Gen Z, and probably your parents or grandparents who are on Facebook are getting exposed to that message more than you are, because Mark is really beating that over people's heads. But that made a big impact. That it has really helped all of us, who are in the metaverse and have been working with elements of the metaverse for years, as some of the people have talked about, like Angela and others, and people who talk about it later will tell you that we've been working in elements of the metaverse for a while. But this has really helped us leverage that term, which for marketing people out there, it's really branding at the end of the day. And lastly, COVID-19. And I mean, experts in tech say it. I mean, this is when we really became comfortable with not just working remotely, but working virtually on a screen, working virtually with, I mean, the avatars were us, but, there were plenty of times that we could go ahead and, I don't know, put something else on the screen. There were, Joe, who's one of our resident millennials at my company, used to have a fake video of him. We didn't know if it was him or not when he was on Zoom. So it was like, he had his own metaverse avatar there. So those things are definitely really changing the game as it relates to the adoption of the metaverse. I mean, COVID-19 really, really did it. So what's this new paradigm? What's going to change? What has changed? And what are some of the terms that, again, you're going to be listening and hearing right now are just terms. It's just words. We're assigning meaning to them. They're going to evolve, but for now, it's good to know about it. So co-presence is essentially meaning that when we're in this virtual world, we're actually going to be there with others. There's going to be a co-presence, but it's a digital version of ourselves. We're still interacting, we're collaborating, we're working with each other, but that is a term that it's going to become ubiquitous because it's how we're going to say that we're essentially hanging out with each other. That's a big paradigm change, because right now when we work with each other, it still feels separate. It feels like we're not in the same environment. Interoperability, this is going to be huge. If this doesn't happen, actually when experts talk about this and why a lot of people think that the metaverse is 10 years away, is because the whole point of the metaverse, like I said earlier, is that you're supposed to go seamlessly from world to world. So every single system, every single software, there needs to be standards that are developed. People are going to be able to go with the digital assets or avatars or whatever they have from one world to another. And that means that brands, systems, companies, software that's developed all has to work with each other. And again, we know right now that most tech companies like to work in their sandbox, and that most brands want their own thing. So if that does not happen, then the metaverse, the true metaverse in its purest definition, will not happen. So continuity and full immersion. Continuity, again, these all work with each other. This continuity is based on the fact that interoperability exists and works. So again, it means that you have your avatar, and your avatar looks exactly the same from one world to another, from one system to another. So that is going to be a big paradigm change. Right now, even in your social media, you use different avatars, use different things. You have different devices with different ways that you communicate. I mean, it was a long time until you could really communicate and have the right emoji show up from iMessage to Google Androids, right? So I mean, those type of things, as mundane, as silly as they sound, that's actually what needs to happen in order for the metaverse to be fully realized. So the potential, and you've heard, I believe David said that the potential for the metaverse is, I don't know, $25 quadrillion or something. I don't know. We could keep throwing numbers at, but these are real numbers. So right now, this year, $35 billion was spent on virtual goods. And that's not counting music. This is actual virtual goods. The Blackpink, does anybody know who Blackpink is? It's a K-pop band. One person, wow. So, and your children know who K-pop is, who Blackpink is. They're very popular. They've had a lot of collabs. They're a Korean band, but they just won the first MTV Music Award for Metaverse performance. Like, what the hell does that mean? But 15 million people were at that concert. 15 million people. I mean, these are people paying for that. And let me tell you something, that when you go back to the virtual goods, half of 16 to 24-year-olds would buy virtual-only products. I mean, they're doing it right now. They're doing it with games. You know, even if it's just buying, you know, new outfits for their little characters in their games, or new skins for their weapons, or whatever the case may be. These are virtual goods. So this thing right here, that is a Nike. Which, pay attention to this, because you're going to see it announced everywhere, January 2023, that Nike's launching a new brand called Swoosh. So this is a digital-only brand. It was born out of the acquisition of a company called Artifact. You won't be able to Google that because it's very, very startup-y, no vowels, like A-R-T. But anyway, so they bought this brand because this brand was developing digital shoes that became luxury items that, celebrities, Elon Musk and people like that were buying it. And one year they made $3 million just selling a few hundred of these digital shoes. So Nike now acquired them. They put a whole campaign. And let me tell you, Nike is probably going to be one of the biggest case studies in retail as far as really incorporating the metaverse well. Is anybody watching World Cup? There you go. So Team USA. Listen. Listen, I'm from Panama, and it's like last World Cup was the only World Cup that we ever made it there, and it probably never happened again. So, anyways, Team USA all the way. But if you guys saw that brilliant commercial, did you guys see that brilliant commercial, the World Cup Nike commercial, where they go into, I mean, they call it the multiverse. They don't call it the metaverse, but say it's a multiverse thing that these scientists are doing, and they're bringing Ronaldinho through. It's kind of like a deep fake sort of thing. Ronaldinho when he was young, players at their optimal time, and Cristiano Ronaldo, and they have Alex Morgan, and they're all playing in this like virtual field. But all of a sudden they bring gaming characters and some like 8-bit character, and then at the very end they say, and next player's up, you. And they have all these obscured images, and it's supposed to be you. So there's all these Easter eggs that they place there to basically say that they're really creating this whole, basically it's a metaverse for sports, for football, almost say, for soccer. And what this is going to do is really going to bring, again, they're not really even saying the word metaverse, but they're essentially doing. Because going back to the Swoosh brand that they're going to launch, there's another element to what they're going to do, is you're going to be able to buy these digital goods, these digital shoes, that you could eventually collaborate with a celebrity and a soccer star to create, and you're going to be able to get them in physical form. And that is where the brilliance and what everybody needs to pay attention about this whole concept about the metaverse is that this isn't necessarily about obscuring your daily lives behind a VR headset. People actually do not want that, do not like that. People still want to experience things in the real world. So having that connectivity between the digital world and the real world is what brands and companies need to really pay attention to and understand. So we talked about Blackpink. One person raised her hand. She's the coolest one here. But there was just, I think a few weeks ago, and you'll love this, Adam, there was a Metaverse concert, very well attended. That's a little gif I made from Ozzy Osbourne, 73-year-old man. He had a Metaverse concert and very, very well attended. So this is something that's already going across multiple demographics. People are exposed to it. People are learning about it. This isn't necessarily something that they touted as like this is a metaverse performance. I mean, this is just immersive experiences that brands and people and organizations are creating. So the potential, this is another very, very important thing to also think about. So 75% of workers who were polled were interested in working in the metaverse. Again, this is just a blanket statement. But what's going to happen, and there's this term that you should remember, especially if you want to sound smart, the reverse consumerization of IT. What that means is that when somebody is exposed to a concept, to technology, to something in their work environment, and they start adopting it, they take it home. They start incorporating it into their daily lives. So what's going to happen is there's going to be metaverse elements that are going to be, pushed to us starting actually next year that we're going to go ahead and take home. Consumers are going to start incorporating it into their daily lives. This is an actually new mesh for Microsoft Teams. If you know what mesh is, it's just a way to basically create AR, VR within Microsoft, and it's gotten incorporated into Microsoft Teams where you could collaborate, again, in a virtual world. But it's rumored that that all the other ones are going to follow suit. Google, Slack, they're all going to incorporate elements of basically collaborating and working in a metaverse-like environment through these tools. And these are tools that we all use in our daily work lives. So currently, and this is when I become a realist, metaverse, it's really impacting currently some gaming, not all gaming, some gaming. Some entertainment. I mean, we saw those concepts, but I mean, you don't see Taylor Swift. Taylor Swift should do a metaverse concert. Jesus, right? But you don't see everybody doing that yet. It's some entertainment, some learning and education. Actually, this whole conference is about essentially this. The metaverse already being used and having been used for years in learning and education. It is actually, how many people here from academia or educational institutions? A couple. It is actually where data, and I know especially marketers are very data driven, and maybe why they're not incorporating a lot of elements of the metaverse. But in learning and education, that's where you have the best case studies, the best data, the best research saying that elements of the metaverse, augmented reality, virtual reality, really enhances the way that we absorb information and it impacts our lives. One data point related to that, which I've been saying for years, is that the way that your brain looks at these fake artificial images or 3D or AR, the way that we remember it is as a real object. If you see a 3D object, a real experience. We don't remember it as an artificial experience. So therein lies why in learning and education, the metaverse and metaverse tools are extremely effective. So the future, this is a future that will happen, may not happen, but this is where it needs to get, where it's not just some, it's most of the workplace is in the metaverse, most retail is in the metaverse, and basically most of our everyday. So this is when the metaverse is fully realized. So again, it will happen, but there are a lot of things that need to happen before, and you start seeing that when people start throwing out metaverse and say, the metaverse is here, meet you there, it's not really happening. It's just a brand word that's being thrown out. So how's it practical for business today? And this is something that I think about a lot. By the way, this is the first time I do this presentation, so you guys tell me if it sucks or if it's, whatever. But these are things, thank you. Thumbs up from the coolest person in the room, thank you. So it is better consumer engagement if you use Metaverse tool. 100%. Again, going back to why it's important for learning and education, it's the same reason why it's important for consumer engagement. But smoother employee training and onboarding. If I'm actually investing in a company that does this exact same thing, and they already have several clients, and it is something that, again, it saves money. Go into cost effectiveness. It's way easier to leverage these metaverse-like tools to go ahead and train and continue to reinforce certain concepts through these digital assets than having to print things and not being able to track them or using videos and some of these other things. Improved collaboration, that's, again, a given, and we'll start seeing it next year. Next year could be either, it's going to be the make it or break it year. It may be the cold winter for Metaverse, or it may be that, again, it really starts incorporating it very heavily into our lives. And a competitive edge. It's very low risk for you to start exploring Metaverse tools and the Metaverse. And the upside is that competitive edge, because there's only 100 people here in this room, 100 companies, 100 brands that are represented here getting exposed to this information right now here in Central Florida. So you may have the competitive edge if you start today. So the future workforce in the Metaverse. This, for me, is actually pretty exciting because this is how I got started. I started my company because there's an app ecosystem. And if it weren't for that, I wouldn't be here. So think about all the roles and the jobs that are going to be created and spurred by the metaverse. I mean, there's already, if you look at LinkedIn and search for metaverse, you're going to see people that are already chief metaverse officers. You're going to see chief metaverse engineers. You're going to see metaverse engineers. You're going to see metaverse consultants. You're going to see this. And again, you could poo-poo the term, but you have the big brands doing it. And whenever big brands are doing this, Disney earlier this year, again, they appointed the person that's going to be in charge of the metaverse, and that's happening everywhere as well, is you know that everybody should pay attention to why this is being done. Content producers and storytellers. We're content producers as well. Anybody who's with an agency or a marketing person, you have to become a metaverse storyteller. How do you continue your story in this world that's, perhaps ethereal, but also combined with the physical, and it's 3D, but could use 2D elements? All those things are something that we need to go ahead and learn, but there's going to be also people that are going to just, their careers are going to start by being metaverse storytellers. Metaverse event producers. We're talking about these concerts, but right now we should be in the metaverse, right? I should have just had a thing here, been at home, and talk to you in the metaverse. But that's going to happen more and more. You're going to have that dual event, one in the metaverse, one in real life. Metaverse community managers. Just like in the advent of social media, people started realizing that you had to listen to conversations there, react a certain way. Same thing is going to happen with the metaverse. So these are another set of roles that are going to be created. And then what I call next-gen professional services. So attorneys. I'm sure there's tons of attorneys in the room. They're wearing my leadership class. Any attorneys in the room? Like two. Half my class was attorneys. I don't know why. But attorneys on the law in place, did everybody see that Morgan & Morgan Metaverse commercial? Oh, geez, that was cringe-worthy. Let me tell you. But, hey, competitive advantage. We all remember it. I don't remember any other. In any detail, I don't remember any other Morgan & Morgan commercial but that one. But real estate. There is a digital, realistic land grab in the metaverse right now in different worlds. So what does that mean for, again, legal, accounting, real estate? How are these roles going to evolve? How do you here in the audience need to go ahead and start paying attention and seeing how you become a little bit more well-versed, because your clients or your companies are going to be talking about this now more and more. And then again, my favorite, entrepreneurship. You're going to see companies, for the metaverse to start and to happen, there needs to be, going back to the meta center, there needs to be a meta center, a place, a physical ecosystem where people inspire each other and start companies. But then entrepreneurship is going to happen. You're going to have people who are going to be the evangelists, they may be you, within your organizations, who will start saying, okay, we need to, maybe there's a metaverse division, maybe there's a metaverse, thought leaders group or committee or something along those lines, and all that is entrepreneurship within the company. So, I don't even know how much time I have. I'm really sorry, but we're about to wrap up. What can your business strategy be? First, you learn. You're learning it right now. There are a lot of resources out there. There's a lot of confusion. Again, just take everything with a grain of salt and try to discern between the people that are trying to sell you something or that are trying to really beat you over the head with a concept that is just that right now, and then the actual tangible information that's backed by data. And then evaluate. Assess whether this is going to be part of your, whether there's going to be some sort of ROI, whether the ROI is just to at least know what's coming and being aware. Create, meaning that if you could have a small project within your organization or partner with an outside company to have a small project, just dip your toes in so you're not left behind, you will learn. And that is extremely important, and it should be a part of your business strategy immediately. And then adapt. There are things that are going to have to be changed within the company. It could be as simple as, what do we do if all of a sudden, again, that large percentage of the workforce needs to be in the metaverse, and Slack and Google and Teams all come out with now everything has an ancillary metaverse component. Then you have to figure out whether you're going to offer that to your employees because that's what they want. So, and lastly, innovate. You can innovate within your organization and outside of your organization. We're not done, but I did. How much time do I have? What? Oh man! All right, Q&A. I still have more to say, but does anybody have any questions? There you go. Yes.
This is
Oh,
all very
sorry.
interesting, and yes, one of the things that I feel like we got all very accustomed to as a result of COVID was the virtual world and just being comfortable with not being together, right, but still being connected. I guess once, let's say, all this happens, once this happens, I guess is probably the term, right? What do you think are the risks, right? Like, what are those things that we need to be mindful of? Because what I worry, and this is I'm in education, right? So one of the things that we learned through the pandemic was, while we're able to teach children, for example, using a virtual space, the effectiveness of it is just not there. So I'm wondering, like, what are those psychological things? What are those things that we need to be mindful to ensure that we do differentiate, especially for our youth, right? We differentiate that this is the metaverse and this is reality, and here's how those things differentiate from one another. Because even in the movie, right, like when you watch
Right.
Real Player One, you can see just the blunt sadness and the differentiation
Right.
of the two, how we've lost it. So like, what are the things that we need to be doing, specifically in the education space, right, to ensure that we're mindful of those psychological implications, so we don't have challenges later down the road that maybe they're going to be harder to mitigate.
Right. Well, and I don't necessarily have all the answers for that, but I will tell you that one of the number one issues that people have with the metaverse have to do with children. How are they going to adapt to it? What's going to be the impact? What are the security risks, privacy risks? And that's something real, and that needs to be just industry-wide within the metaverse industry figured out. But I will say, going back to that concept where people in the workplace adopt certain technologies and take it home, you already have kids and you already have a generation that's living in that world. So they're already absorbing information, they're influencing each other through that technology. So I don't purport to know the path of academia, but it needs to be sped up in order to really understand that impact.
Are there people who are probably already carrying metaverse like insurance? Because you said earlier that the brain doesn't know the difference. It remembers it as a real event. So addressing her concern about children, I mean, the onus is really on the industry to, well, you put a product out there and you know what you just said, the research is there that says the brain remembers it as real. A child, isn't going to know that. So if the industry doesn't do something about it, lawyers will.
Exactly.
It's a boon
Yes,
for
absolutely. And therein, again, going back to what I said, I think that everybody should pay attention. I think that on the legal aspect, I think that you're going to see a lot in terms of the impact. I mean, you also have not just the content, but hardware itself. You're going to have this acceleration of hardware that's going to be put out. That's probably going to impact us a lot more because we're wearing it constantly. People are going to, silly things. What if people start wearing it while they're driving? What if people are wearing it all the time while they're, working, hammering something in their house? But these are things that, and again, I said the metaverse industry, we will all be the metaverse industry. I think this is one exciting thing about the metaverse is we will all create the metaverse. This isn't something that one industry is going to own or shape or be able to control. So I think one more.
I had a question, but I wanted to
Yeah.
add, responsibility can't be completely on the industry. It has to be on individuals also. It's the same, this is not new for kids right now. They've
Right.
already been doing this.
Right.
So if your kid is
Right.
playing Sims, any video games, they've been teaching this, they know more than you do. And so you have to, as a parent, as a teacher, whoever it is, whatever role you play, you have to put the boundaries in that as you would with anything else. I mean, the same thing with cars. It's not going to be all in the
Agree.
car industry. If somebody wants to take a car and drive recklessly, they have responsibility in that.
But I
And
mean,
so-
there's ethics in every industry. I mean, there's ethics within every industry.
Correct.
Panels, regulations,
Right.
et cetera. So my point is though, is that if the research says that it's remembered as real, I mean, why wouldn't every attorney in America right now
Right.
child or whatever, if they feel that, coffee was spilled on them in the drive-through, whether it happened or not, it was experienced.
Right. And again, this is why, I liken it to social media. I mean, how many things had to happen legally also for things to catch up, for the law to catch up, and for society to catch up in general. I think one more, and then, a couple more minutes, and then we'll be done.
I have a question, a couple of questions I wrote down. One of them regarding real estate. So I'm part of a mastermind group, and they mentioned how people are literally buying real estate in the metaverse
Yeah.
next to celebrities right now. Like, you can literally live next door to Jennifer Lopez if you want to. I don't know, like, if you can speak more in detail on that, 'cause I would have curious.
Yeah, well, I mean, again, there's the real estate, and what you're seeing is in very specific virtual worlds, right? Again, the metaverse, and people assign the term metaverse to all sorts of things, but I mean, these are very specific web properties and games, and digital properties rather, and that's where people are buying this space. But they could, the value, much like cryptocurrency and other things that are not really based on something tangible, could disappear if people don't really continue to assign it that value. But it is happening. There's price increasing in certain land properties within these different 3D worlds and virtual worlds. But again, it's something that's going to evolve. There's no, going back to even the legal question, there are no standards on any of this. So a lot of it is, we're figuring it out. There are people that are doing certain things strictly because they want to benefit society, and some are doing it because they just want to, it's just, finances and money.
Are there good resources that we could follow to, like, stay on the up and up on what's going on?
Again, yes. Well, kind of. I'll put another QR code at the end so you guys could contact me. But just, one last thing. So avatars. I mean, I think this is like an old avatar. You've had many avatars. This is an older one. But, avatars are really going to have a glow up, right, in the metaverse, and it is going to change. But one of the exciting things is that, there's something that's said about the psychology of who we are, that we always want to be somebody else. We always want to be something else. And then when you have an avatar that could mirror yourself, head to toe, and include your emotions, because again, hardware is going to be able to understand your emotions, read your facial expression, know what you're expressing. You're potentially going to be able to communicate better, but also perhaps live your authentic self, or feel differently, or present yourself differently because you want to really evoke a specific emotion. So again, this is going to be something that's completely different. It is going to be revolutionary. But going along with this, and I know I have to speed it up, but pull out the app that I told you to go ahead and download. And if you need to pull it up again, here's that QR code. Actually, if you point at the QR code, it'll pull it up if you already downloaded it. And once you do, and your sound is up, let me know. Error. But if you have, and you open the app, and you click on the button to scan experience, and then point at the magnet that you have, you're going to have a little final message.
Everybody get a magnet? Yeah, but everybody got an arrow magnet. Does anybody need a magnet?
The interwebs went down. Mine too. I just heard one person, say, "Yeah, that's cool. That's all I need." And everything else is essentially the example why the metaverse is just not here yet. No, it's the internet, because it happened to me too. You get close out of it and open it again. Oh no. Yes. How do you get to the metaverse? That's actually a good question. Again, there is no one metaverse. There's different virtual worlds, but there's something that we call the metaverse access points, and the access points are not necessarily going to be through a device that's 3D. This could be your access to the metaverse. The desktop devices, your laptop could have access to the metaverse because the metaverse is first going to be 2D and 3D, and eventually to be completely 3D with some device that you wear. You're welcome. So when you go home, do what I just told you. Pull that application, point at Adam's message in the metaverse. This has been amazing, and I really, really appreciate it, and I'm really grateful, just like everybody else who's now not just dabbling in the metaverse, but really creating for the metaverse, that you have paid attention to what we're doing, and that you pay attention to the Meta Center right here in Orlando. As some immediate next steps, I really would love if you increase stakeholder awareness, identify internal advocates, have that consistent exploration and research, be curious about it because it's not going anywhere, at least for a very, very long time. And if it evolves and changes names, it's still there and you still heard it here, you've been aware of it, and then connect with local partners. You connect with me, you can connect with Brand XRs coming after, 302 Interactive. There are many companies here that could guide you into the metaverse and help you with those first projects that your company needs to have, and with that consulting. I just heard Virtual Adam speak over there. And there's no need to go to Silicon Valley companies. There's no need to use New York agencies or anything like that. We're all here. I think that, again, like David said, this is one of the first times that there's this technological revolution that's happening globally where Orlando is at the epicenter of it, and we need to really leverage it. So thank you very much for today. Appreciate it.
All right, thank you, Carlos. Do you want to take your laptop with you? I'm going to pop this out. Kunal, why don't you come get connected here? Thank you. All right, so bit of a bummer because we had this awesome little surprise, and I tested it several times this morning, and I guess that is proof that the metaverse is almost here, but not quite. But if you don't delete that app, if you keep it on your phone and maybe at break or later this evening, you can check it out. The message will still work. And be careful storing that magnet. Don't put it directly next to your laptop or your phone, or you'll have to download the app again along with everything else on your phone. Okay, so I want to introduce, I'm kidding, your phones are fine. Okay, I want to introduce our next speaker, Kunal Patel. Kunal is the founder and CEO of Brand XR. CTO, sorry. Co-founder and CTO of Brand XR, which was founded in 2018 and is also an Orlando and other city-based company. And they're doing some really cool stuff in mixed reality that Kunal is going to tell you a little bit about. In addition, he is the, I think executive director is the term, of Orlando Game Space. Did you know that we have like a 10,000 square foot game development studio that is right across from Lake Eola? In fact, I park there very often when I go to the farmer's market on Sundays. And so he is also involved in a number of other initiatives. These little conferences, I shouldn't really say little, but they're periodic conferences that we have throughout the year. Some are focused on healthcare, some are focused on simulation, and they have names like Healthcare Mega Jam and Indienomicon and all kinds of great, fun, exciting, very hip terms. We are very lucky to have Kunal in the Orlando community because of all of the great cutting edge stuff that he brings, and we're also very lucky to have him here talking to Leadership Orlando. Please help me welcome Kunal.
Hello? Can you guys hear me? Yeah? Okay, great. So, I'm sure everybody is familiar with augmented reality and virtual reality and all those things, but I know everybody's experience is going to be a little bit different. Everybody's in different industries. So, in a general talk about mixed reality, I may go over some things that maybe you guys already know about. Maybe there's some things that you don't know about. But the biggest thing is what I hope is just maybe setting the table for some of the discussion that we can have afterwards, the Q&A, the panel that comes afterwards. So maybe it's just a little bit of like table setting in what I'll do. And I'll try to move quick on this too so we can get to the talks, to the panel. So generally, mixed reality. We're getting hit with a lot of different terms, AR, VR, MR, and then even then, MR is sometimes it's merged reality, sometimes it's mixed reality, but go with mixed reality for now. As Adam was mentioning, I'm involved in a lot of different organizations. BrandXR is my company that I co-founded. I'm the CTO. My co-founder is in Detroit. And that's an augmented reality creation platform, so you can kind of create, publish, and measure. So think of it almost like as like a Squarespace that you can make a website in 10 minutes. The aim is you should be able to make augmented reality in 10 minutes as well. In the past 10 years or so, I've been very much involved in gaming technologies, and that's what led to creating Indienomicon Foundation, which is that organization that puts on these 48-hour hackathon events where we get about 100 video game developers, and then they work with major industry to solve problems. And then also the Orlando Game Space, where we have a density of other gaming tech-focused companies that are right next to each other, because when we pass by each other in the hallway, we end up solving each other's problems, or we remember something. And then because I just really wanted to not have an empty schedule, I also was part of the founding team of Fat Merchant, which is now known as Stacks. So a lot of the gray hairs you see on me began at that point. So as mentioned, because everybody's in different industries, it's important to know these kind of things. So one of the hackathons, Mega Health Jam, we get healthcare experts, doctors, nurses, people that are within healthcare, mixed with game developers, and then they create mixed reality, AR, VR related experiences to solve healthcare problems. And it's a 48-hour event. So if you're within healthcare, pay attention to that. With Intergalactic Space Jam, if you're in the space industry, we do things with that. You end up having people from NASA, SpaceX, Blue Origin, Space Coast companies that all come, and then again, you try solving problems in space. Didn't update this slide, but like Armed Forces Jam, again, you get Army, Navy, Marines, Air Force, Space Force, all of those experts that come in, and it happens annually in September, and you have game developers working with those experts to solve problems in different ways than perhaps traditional milsim. As I was mentioning with BrandXR, we started this company because before the terms Metaverse came out, before people really popularly knew AR, VR, we just did projects, and we saw that it took a lot of time, a lot of money, a lot of people to produce 3D immersive projects and experiences. And we wanted to start tackling, how do you make it easy? How do you not make it $100,000, $200,000, $300,000, $1 million project that most of us can't afford? And that's to take the same approach that Squarespace or Wix did, that you can make a website in 10 minutes. You don't have to hire an agency for $100K just to make a website. If you need something really complex and special, then spend on that. So that's what we're building. That is progressively getting better and things like that. And then meanwhile, we also do projects too, like Carlos was mentioning. We've worked on a variety of projects for a lot of famous companies in all different capacities, so we end up having a lot of experience and we see a lot of things. Some of it's serious, some of it's nonsense, but we have experience across the whole gamut of things. The easy thing today is we all have smartphones in our pockets, so a lot of the projects that we do just involve whipping out your phone and then trying things like that. AR murals and art festivals and things like that. brand marketing are all use cases that are there today. So that's a lot of the projects that we do. You'll see like up there, there's like a rotating green thing. That's like for a plastic manufacturing company that wanted to better train their employees and salespeople on their capabilities. And the protein molecule you see is for a university that was trying to better teach organic chemistry. So instead of looking at a flat 2D image, they actually could blow it up to be 6 feet tall and walk around it. So that's a whole lot easier to understand these concepts. And the artwork that you see in the bottom left is from a famous artist. He would sell large, sculptures for like $50,000, $100,000. And so I believe he sold a $90,000 sculpture just using augmented reality. You know, they didn't actually have to like fly there, didn't have to see how big it was or anything. So these things are useful today, but in different capacities, different ways. This is actually almost like in the way the BrandXR started. We started doing work for Kennedy Space Center. We created a VR experience, a tour of the International Space Station. And it took a lot of time, a lot of people, a lot of money, and we're like, how do we make it so it doesn't take that long? And that's what led to creating BrandXR, so that experiences like this and other things could be done way faster. So what I'm trying to do here, hopefully, is just why mixed reality? What's the lay of the land? Predictions on where we're headed. And that's something that maybe we can all do together. That if you understand the context of where things are, you can kind of know where things are going in your industry too. So I don't know if this feels like your phone. It feels like my phone. And this I thought was a very profound quote from Satya Nadella, who's the CEO of Microsoft, is that the true scarce commodity of the near future will be human attention. Our attention is really the most precious thing that's out there, and it's dwindling. There was a study that was done in 2013, and you know, I should take this, I put the wrong date here. This is actually 2000. In the year 2000, a study showed that human attention span was 12 seconds. And in 2013, it was 8 seconds. And the average attention span of a goldfish is 9 seconds. So are we really that bad? Has it really come to this? And I don't know if there's been a study that happened in 2022, but I cannot imagine, like, things have gotten, you know, way more complex since 2013. So I would have ventured to say that attention span is probably less than 8 seconds at this point. And then on top of it, we had COVID. So that changed a lot of things. We had to juggle a lot of things on our computer desktop, right? So again, that's probably dwindled that attention span even lower. But in this study, they understood that beyond a flat 2D screen, a video, a picture, or something like that, the human brains is actually able to comprehend things better. Memory retention is improved. Cognition is improved when something is spatially 3D right there in front of you. If you were to view, in the experiment, when you viewed the same thing, whether it was flat 2D image on a screen or you saw it within 3D, your brain retained that information better, and you actually understood what this was because it was 3D. Now, is it because it's something novel and new? That I don't know. But nonetheless, even if this is a fad that lasts for 10 years before our brains adapt, it's still a thing. Now, a lot of people get this all mixed up. VR, AR, MR. VR is when you have a full headset on your face. It's blocking the entire view. AR is where you're looking through some kind of pass-through. It's putting a digital element right there in front of you in real life. And mixed reality is almost like a super version of AR, where it's now interactive, it feels more natural, it's digital elements and the real life interacting with each other, being spatially aware. We named the company, my company BrandXR, because really it would encompass all of these kind of realities. And I think in the future, as technology evolves and new consumer products and enterprise products come out, all this stuff will just converge. They'll probably just be mainly glasses and things like that, and they can kind of switch to VR mode or AR mode or MR mode, and there'll be more sensors. So for now, think of it in these three buckets, but ultimately it's all going to converge. And we have been here time and time again. Radios led to eventually TVs. TV led into, other technologies, the PC era. I don't know if you remember AOL diskettes and CDs that would come to your house and give you like 10 free hours. That led into the internet. Then that led into the mobile space, e-commerce, and now we're ending up in VR, AR, and MR. And whatever happens in all this stuff, there's companies that don't make the transition. There was people in the 90s that said, all my calls, all my business comes from the yellow pages. What the hell is this internet stuff? www.something.com and this tiny little TV on my screen and I have to use a keyboard? No way. That's not going to happen. 5 years later, what happened? Those companies are dead. And those that thought like, yeah, I should have a web page, they survived. Every single time this transition happens, there's the people who are there are smart people who said like, nah, this is not for me. And it's because you're on the hamster wheel. You're in the middle of it. You're busy taking care of your business. And you're like, I don't have time to adapt. And that is stupid. And then things change really fast. And you get caught. You're like the dinosaur looking at an asteroid like coming down to Earth. So we are in that same transition right now. And everything seems like ridiculous. Like, hey, we're in like 1995, if you can remember that. That is the equivalent of what's happening today. And even in the past few years, things have changed. Like, I don't know if you've ever tried this thing called Second Life or watched that episode of The Office where Dwight was in Second Life. That was like maybe the start, like a little bit of like the metaverse. But things are improved with the headsets, the fidelity's better, the use cases are becoming more apparent through the enterprise. But things are progressing and they're progressing fast. And it's being used today. It's being used by the big players, Amazon, IKEA, Shopify, and it's making a difference in e-commerce. The big players can afford to do this kind of stuff. And they've noticed, with real data, they're converting better on their website when they introduce an augmented reality component to it. People are more engaged when they can spin something around in 3D. I don't know about you guys, but I'm a tab fiend. I have 50 tabs open at any given time. And I'm comparing between one thing or another. Should I buy this? Should I not buy this? You really want to shorten that buying cycle. And so engagement through 3D is important. Another thing is return rate. Return rates have gone down. Industry average is 11%. It's down to 2% when you can have some preview of it within 3D. My garage is like a showroom. And it's like 5 things are bought from Amazon to figure out if one thing is the thing that I want and the other 4 get returned. So, I guess watching Captain Planet as a child didn't really help. But this is the norm. This is the norm. And 44% people are more likely to increase their cart size of what they're going to buy as well when they can spatially see things. And there's over 2 billion AR-capable smartphones out there today. So this is happening now. You probably have seen this, I think. There's a wine called 19 Crimes, and you can scan the front, and the person speaks and tells you a story. Well, it's actually made a 30% increase in sales. And there's something called dwell time. Like, how much are you looking at an object and thinking about it, or just enjoying it, or just not even thinking you're going to buy it, but you're just hanging out, checking it out? There's a whole bunch of things going on in your brain that eventually will make you go, maybe I will buy it. And then you buy it. I spoke to actually a liquor store owner about this. Like, hey, do you think people are actually buying more? He's like, I'm selling entire cases. I had one person just thinking they were going to buy one, but they liked it so much, they bought a whole case just so they could get the whole variety pack. And then there's other brands that are associated too. There's Walking Dead wine as well. And if you scan it, a zombie breaks out of the bottle and kills a person and then drags them away. It's pretty gruesome. But it's flying off the shelves. It seems ridiculous, but it's working. And the future of work has already begun. Companies like Meta are definitely shoving it down your throat. They're like, this is what they're all in on. And right now, as Carlos was mentioning, avatars are a thing, but the fidelity is going to get a whole lot better. Right now, it looks like a cartoon world, and some people aren't down with that. But it will get better, and it will get pretty close to what you look like today, and maybe then it becomes a little bit more acceptable. But today, the experimentation is happening. Microsoft and Accenture are working together. Accenture, global consulting firm, has deployed Quest headsets to thousands of their workers. I want to say I think there's 6,500 employees that have headsets and are logging in to something called the nth floor. So what they did was they created the perfect Accenture floor, office floor. And every Accenture employee on Earth, whether you work in the Japan office, the New York office, the San Francisco office, you can all sign in and you're all on the nth floor. So they're doing that today to collaborate. And, the simple thing is virtual flat screens within a 3D world. It actually does make a difference. There's something even spatially important about that too. You could be in a better environment. You have like kids, dogs running around, like the floor is messy, everything like that. But if you're to put this in and you're inside of a giant mansion with a waterfall, and then you're doing your work, it actually does feel better. Now, the thing is, all the major players are involved. And so I'm just going to go through a few of them and, just so you get a feel for like everybody is in on AR and mixed reality. So Mark Zuckerberg, we're making a long-term bet that immersive virtual augmented reality will become a part of people's daily lives. A lot of people think that the metaverse is about a place, but one definition, this is about time when basically immersive digital worlds becomes the primary way that we live our lives and spend our time. Today, remember the family of apps? So Facebook, WhatsApp, Messenger, Instagram, and probably some more to come. They're going to try to be in your life, whether you like it or not. You're going to be involved in Mark's world. And he's spending a lot of money because he has full control to do that and trying to get in. So they have the Quest, which has been selling very well. They just announced the Quest Pro, $1,500. It's for a more niche audience, but they're testing out their technologies that they'll trickle down to the $300 headset. And today, of all the AR-capable devices, how many have Instagram? A lot of them. And all of them have AR selfie capabilities. And all big data is being collected. So they have, this is what the average face looks like. This is what the nose looks like. This is how to respond if the nose is wider, the eyes are wider. Like they have all this kind of stuff. And it's all for a future, for a hardware device that is yet to come. And it's not just going to be VR. They're making AR glasses. People say like, oh, Mark only thinks about VR. No, it's all going to be the same. So, all the players are going after the same thing. Apple, we don't 100% know what's going on here, but they're working on something. There's a reason why, 1,000 optical engineers were hired for Apple. Why did a business executive from Luxottica, the largest manufacturer of sunglasses and eyewear, get hired at Apple? There are things happening. We know there are things that are happening. We have friends that work there that can't tell us anything, but I might have gotten a wink. There are things that are happening. Today, so many people have iPhones. You see the previews for their conferences all have an AR component. It's coming. They're trying to set the table. I think a VR headset is going to come out first. It's a pass-through. It's an expensive way for them to get more data and to test things out before the XR glasses come out. Their glasses will look probably similar to something like I have. And they're going to wait for everybody else to come out first so they can fall on their face, and then they can do something better. That's always the way they do it. Microsoft, the mighty Microsoft, didn't win in the mobile war. Apple and Android, right? They tried with Windows Phone. They were too late. And I think they realized this. They own the enterprise. They may try to do things in the consumer space, but they got a brand for that called Xbox, and I think maybe that's the niche that they'll go after. They have a prosumer, a higher business end, brand with Microsoft Surface. They may try something there. Today in the enterprise, they have HoloLens, which they offer to like all different types of companies, as well as in the military space, where they sold a large contract to the Army. The ultimate computer for me is the mixed reality world. Your field of view becomes an infinite display. You see the world, and in the world, you see virtual objects and holograms. We clearly missed the mobile boom. Now we have to make sure we grow new categories. Even if they don't win in the consumer space, that's okay, because they're dealing in the cloud space. They're going to get a fraction of a penny because some other app or some other service is using Azure. Sundar Pichai, CEO of Google, looking to the future, the next big step will be for the very concept of the device to fade away. They bought a Toronto-based company named Focals. And if you remember Google Glass, people called those people glass holes. It didn't work, right? But actually, they won. They got a lot of data. That's all they're after. They're not good at releasing a lot of products. They're trying. How many things? There's a website called the Google Graveyard of all these projects they started but then shut down. They're after the big data component. That's what they are. They have a data center, Google Cloud. If they win there, they're also happy. It's their market to lose. Android is number 2. Everybody is going after Android. They know Apple's going to be in that number 1 spot or number 2 spot if you count in terms of devices. But it's Google's to lose. We don't know what's going to happen there. But they're going to release glasses like this too. And the other 2 major players, I kind of put them together. One, because Jeff Bezos, I couldn't find a really good quote from him, but I did find 5 notable patents that were related to glasses, headsets, and projection mapping. And Evan Spiegel, the CEO of Snap, this company that a lot of teens use, early 20s, kids, it is the app that a lot of them use, beyond TikTok. So it's something not to sleep on. But they say every daily active user interacts with Snap 30 times a day on average. And I do think it represents an evolution in computing because it makes computing much more personal. And today, AR is experienced through this very tiny phone screen that really limits your ability to overlay computing on the world around you. We do think there's a lot of potential to overlay computing on the world around you and break the confines of the very small smartphone experience. And you'll see some examples of that. This is the 5th iteration of their device. They tried 4 times, failed. 5th time, iterating a little bit more. I'm going to throw this out there. I think Amazon is going to buy Snap. I think Snap is using Amazon's infrastructure. Amazon hasn't had a lot of, wins in the consumer phone space or anything like that, but I think this could be a very powerful combination if that happens. Overall, where's this all going? The future will be amazing. And this is an example of a video that Magical Leap made. And they didn't really hit their promise of what they were going to be in the consumer space when they made this video, but it will get there. And a school assembly that would have this happen in front of everybody would be amazing. There are companies that are starting to do this, start doing training right now, and it's all going to get better. The Singapore police, they're doing training using VR. Walmart did training for Black Friday shopping. They set up various scenarios on what you would face. What do you do if a grandma is about to elbow you in the face? This kind of stuff can be solved in mixed reality, and it can't be in real life. Even teaching empathy. There's a film that was made years ago called Clouds Over Sidra, where they followed kids around in Syria. This stuff is still being consumed to this day. And when people want to go through empathy training, they watch things like this. Visualization. So again, mentioning that big companies are doing this today. They're selling makeup and they're selling furniture. And then you realize, oh, this rug doesn't look good. Let me swap out the rug. Oh, this rug looks great. Now I'm going to buy it. That stuff's happening. With Sephora, they noted that they had a 30% sales growth when they were using AR in the mix. House, they noticed 11 times additional sales conversion and 3 times the app engagement. I don't know if you ever saw this on the Weather Channel. It's terrifying. But I saw it and I'm like, oh, wow, now I get it. I should be careful, right? If somebody just told me it's raining a lot And, it might get up there. Even if they told me that it could be 3 feet of rain that could reach my spot, I may still not take it seriously. But when I see something like this, I think, okay, that is when things are real. So they're using this to even visualize how things could be. Sotheby's selling real estate. Think about walking into an empty room. I don't know how many times I've heard a real estate agent walk into an empty room because it took forever to buy a home, and I finally, accomplished that last year. But we'd walk into a room and say, imagine this, imagine that. What if this wall was blue? What if this sofa was here? I'm a creative person, I can imagine that, but I did come to learn that I can't remember the name of what this affliction is, but there's a percentage of the population that cannot visualize in their mind. Like if you were to close your eyes and I were to say, imagine a purple banana, or imagine a green gorilla. Some people can do that, and then some other people cannot. There is no mind's eye. So that imagine things, those people are just smiling and nodding, but they are amongst us. So, when we say that kind of thing, that's a real problem. But you know what? In the world of AR, that won't exist anymore. This was something interesting that I saw. The average cost of home staging, $2,000. Cost of doing a premier AR app, $200,000. So if you did 100 home stagings, break even in 100 homes. But think about all the time that's being saved. And you can swap out furniture super easy. There's companies that are not even in the AR space that are buying AR companies because they know that they need to get better at presenting their products that they're selling. Williams Sonoma bought a company for $112 million to get better AR capabilities. Porsche is using it to sell expensive cars as well as improve car repair. So they're actually being able to put AR elements over the car engine and see where they need to make changes. So they've actually cut down service time by 40%. Sorry. The other thing, making dumb objects smart. So again, talked about 19 crimes earlier. 19 bottles of wine at $15 each, $285. So selling $285 is a whole lot more than $15. But people are doing it. People are coming back for more. Apple showed this cool example where before their Apple Park, their headquarters was built, they were able to augment things over that. Same thing could be done for real estate and future projects and things like that here. So what are some other things that are coming next? How will people use immersive tech to innovate? How are they going to do immersive storytelling? These are all discussion points, for us to talk about here on out. Autonomous cars are coming. That's also mixed reality because the glass will be holographic glass. You can have data points and images and ads appearing as you drive by certain places where you're being taken there. Maybe even a movie appears. Maybe it looks like you're driving on Mars while you're driving to the science center. All of those things are going to happen because holographic glass. AR glasses are going to come. It's probably going to be 3 to 5 years. But you're going to see somebody start, probably Google, probably Meta first. It may or may not get any traction. And then probably 4 years from now, 3 years, maybe 3 years, 2.5 years, I think Apple will announce something. And in about 3 years, 4 years, Apple will have a solid product out there in the market. So this path to mixed reality has taken a while. Think about 1987, one of my favorite movies, RoboCop. We are almost at that level. Maybe we're not bulletproof, but if you think about it, we have Apple Watch, we have our phone, we have our AirPods. We are living in a mixed reality world. Just put glasses on this girl, and then she will be able to fight crime. So that's my talk, and I'm looking forward to the panel and hearing your questions. Sure, yeah.
So all of this is audio visual. Is anyone working on taste, smell, and touch virtual?
There's some people are, yeah. But whether it's consumer friendly, that's another thing. There's scientists at Dartmouth University that worked on a project for NASA So it's going to take about 8 months at best to send astronauts from Earth to Mars. And so they're doing a lot of psychological tests. And so putting them in VR experiences was one aspect, still wasn't good enough. They started introducing, it's called smell-o-vision. So they had the smell of fresh cut lawn, of bacon, of, not manure, but like earth kind of things. I actually did get to play with that machine. There are cartridges of smells, and they would work with the VR experience. That kind of stuff will keep astronauts from going crazy on this 8-month trip. So there is some scientists that are doing this kind of work. Whether it really becomes a consumer-friendly smell-o-vision, I don't know, but there are researchers doing stuff, yeah. Right over there?
You mentioned how training is being used in AR and VR. What's the timeline, do you think, where AI might be able to use for that, for real-time assessment of deficits and pivoting for that training?
Well, I think AI is going to be, we're in this world of convergence right now. All these technologies are being mixed together right now. AI is going to be in the mix right now. Out the gate, as these projects come out, there'll be an AI component. Today, you can see things with like DALL-E 2, that you can create all these images just from a text, and then what will happen is some of the most common ones will be cached, and maybe you don't want a new one generated. You want something that was already generated. But this stuff will be happening. AI is going to terraform this virtual world that we're going to have. So when you start doing training, it's going to know what kind of training do you want to do, what is the context of it, who is the person, and then think about, well, has AI already generated something recently? If so, it's going to be instant. If not, it'll generate it, wait a couple seconds, and it'll do it. And it'll not only create the main meat of the situation that you're trying to train for, but the context around it. It'll fill the room. It'll do table setting for you, essentially. AI will do that. And that will cut down on artists' time and cost and things like that. But AI is coming, and it will be a part of everything. Anything else? Any other questions? Huh? Great.
All right. Thank you, Kunal. Awesome information. Pretty cool stuff, huh? Okay. We have one more session before lunch. So I want to bring up two people who are going to participate on a panel here. First off, we have David Andrade. David is the CEO of Theory Studios. He is an Emmy, Thea, and VES award-winning animator, game designer, and entrepreneur. Theory's worked with Sesame Street, Disney, Imagineering, Universal, Meta. Their studio works in the Metaverse, and they do theme park animation and produce their own virtual reality games. And in his spare time, David volunteers with the U.S. State Department teaching game design and animation around the world, including Iraq, Mexico, Algeria, and Tunisia, places we all tend to go on the weekends down here.
Go to Baghdad.
And then also I'm bringing up Kyle Morand, and Kyle is the CEO of 302 Interactive. Kyle's a technologist that believes interactive technologies enable us to create experiences that are not only entertaining, but also purpose-driven in the goal of building a better digital lifestyle. His experience in XR started with conducting mixed reality R&D for the Navy simulation and training, so there's a theme going on here. His company, 302 Interactive, has developed products for multiple health and education startup solutions and solutions with emerging technologies. His vision is to turn the world, his vision for the world is to turn every day into a playful experience. I can certainly get on board with that. So please give them a round of applause, and we'll do a bit of a panel here. I'm going to sit. Oh, yeah, please. That'd be fantastic. And we'll also bring Kunal up because this is especially relevant for him. So, man, if I knew these chairs were here this whole time, I would have done all my introductions from here. Okay, well, welcome, gentlemen. Thank you for being here. Can we just start by saying, tell us a little about your company and the things that you do?
I guess I'll go first. Hi, everybody. My name is David Andrade, Theory Studios. Thank you for the intro. At Theory Studios, we aim to bring everyone together into a virtual world and have fun. We make a lot of social VR games for Meta. We work on the Horizons platform. We've released games for the Oculus Quest. Now they call it the Meta Quest, but to me, it's still Oculus. And then on top of that, we also work in theme parks. We do a lot of design and animation work for theme parks around the world. If you're here in Orlando, Universal Studios, Born Stuntacular, did the intro video. But also a lot of work in China and in Vietnam doing animation for theme parks over there. So animation and gaming, that's a core of our business.
Kyle.
Hello, everybody. Kyle from 302 Interactive. We are a digital experiences organization. Like you mentioned, started off in, actually here, I got my little badge, my 10th year coming to ITSEC, which is fun. Started off in like Navy training, doing a lot of R&D with AR and VR technologies, and then took that R&D and learning over to the entertainment side, worked on some attractions with Universal, and then since then I've gone into doing healthcare and education and really as a whole focusing on how to use new emerging technologies to create products that create practical solutions but that are still entertaining and engaging. So our big focus is really combining play and game design with practical problems that you guys all have in your industries.
Awesome. Kunal, on this panel, what company are you representing?
Well, of course, it's Brand XR. But the thing is, like Kyle says, he's a technologist. I consider myself that title as well. And it's like back in the '80s, somebody would say, "I'm in the computer industry." Everything is the computer industry now, and so I think almost anything I'm involved with will somehow have that integrated. And like I was saying, like introducing play into everyday life. It's a case where that's how we all should be living. That's really the case that like this technology is integrated in anything. So for Brand XR, the company's focused on making it easy to create, publish, and measure augmented reality, like really easy templated solutions so that you can get going. So in the way that maybe you would use Canva or Shopify or Wix or Squarespace, and you can go very quick with that. That's where we're going after for Brand XR. For product marketing and a lot of those early use cases. And when you want to go something really advanced, groundbreaking, unique, maybe then you could use our pro services. Or again, like Carlos was mentioning, just hire one of us. Don't go to any other place. Don't go to California. Don't go to New York. Don't go to any other place. Go with any of the people that have been on this stage. Everybody's capable. And that's where they can do really custom things.
So today we've talked about mixed reality, we've talked about modeling and simulation. Can you tell us a little bit about how you're using mixed reality today, and maybe you could venture a guess as to how that might change over the next 5 years?
You want to go first? Sure. On the Navy side of stuff, yeah.
Sure. Mixed reality today, it's a good question. I think like Kunal mentioned, this XR term is kind of broad spectrum of virtual reality, augmented reality, and then mixed reality, where mixed reality is taking a lot of the 3D interactions and more of the playful components and trying to immerse that into our real world environment. Today, what we've been seeing is a lot of, I think, resurgence in the entertainment side, particularly like location-based entertainment post-COVID, where folks are wanting to continue digital experiences, but they're still also wanting to come back out into the real world. So there's a lot of interest on the entertainment side of creating new experiences, creating something that's fun and engaging, and bringing people back out into the real world, concerts, theme parks, etc., but that are still using this digital technology in a new, novel way. I think on the other side, what we've seen a lot of is learning and training. I think there's been a big focus in using digital technologies, like Carlos was mentioning, post-COVID, to engage from a student level and also from like adult training perspective, using these new technologies to train, and now bringing that into the real world so that you have real world tangibility, but then you still have the digital context. A lot of training applications have been utilizing this new technology. As for the next 5 years, I think a lot of the growth of mixed reality, to Kunal's point on the bigger companies and their hardware, it's going to come down to hardware, really, to allow us to have access to these mixed reality components. The compute is there, but it's not accessible for somebody if it costs $1,200 per headset for someone like Accenture to have to deploy out. And so we're still, as a consumer base, limited to using just our phones to access mixed reality. But I think in the next 5 years, that'll just start to become cheaper over time from these larger consumer bases. So.
Yeah, I'll answer it too. We use it to plan theme park rides and do some digital twinning. So one of the parks that we're working on is in China. Pardon me. And COVID happened in China first, and so everything just kind of stopped there. But they still wanted to visualize what the ride would be, and it's a slow ride. It's like a little submarine that goes in a circle. But the owner wanted to feel like, what would it be like to be on a ride? What does the media look like? What does the rock work? What does all of that look like? So we built the entire thing in VR so that he could put it on, and then someone could wheel him around the entire ride. Hey, it worked, right? He bought off on the thing. But so those are some of like the examples where we have found like VR is like a really good way to bring somebody, a stakeholder, and see something before it's actually even completed, many, many years before it's even completed. So it was a really great way to see something. I'm really excited about the Quest Pro because it has real like actual color pass through, and it overlays VR, but you still look kind of like goofy with a big, goggles on your face. But I think there's something there. I really do. So if Apple can do it with like goggles and you can actually see your face and you don't look like goofy and everything, that would be interesting because suddenly everything can be like a super rich experience. I know you guys have done a little bit with that, right, with Niantic and something like that. And I think that's really, really the interesting mixed reality stuff. I think is when you bring in like the world into the headset and it's aware of where you're at, and it can be a rich experience. I think that's magical. That's super cool. So that's where I see it going.
Kunal?
Like in terms of mixed reality, it is going to be an on-ramp, I think, for a lot of people. I don't know, like there'll be people who have been doing this within the enterprise and then we'll eventually see something slicker, in the consumer space, and they'll kind of come down that way. And there'll be a bunch of other people that will have like little previews of it along the way. I saw there's a pair of glasses that is made by a company called Nreal. It's a Chinese-based company, and one of the people was one of the major, major employees at Magic Leap. There's some controversy going on in terms of like, did they take the technology or not? But nonetheless, it's a real consumer product, and it looks like a pair of shades. And you don't look like a total crazy person. If you were to wear those, you just think like, oh, some shades. And they don't do too much. There isn't like actually like LiDAR or anything shooting out, but you could watch a 200-inch TV in front of you. Like it would feel like I got a 200-inch TV right over there. And if all you use it for is just a little bit of that, watching some Netflix, maybe you're laying down in the bed and you want a 200-inch TV on your ceiling, you could do that, and it's only like $350. So there might be people that buy things like that just gets them used to it, and it has a few features, and then eventually there'll be another one that has a little bit more features. So I think will be trickled in along the way.
So related to this, we've talked a little bit about the goofiness of glasses. We've talked a little bit about hardware catching up. What are the challenges other than those that VR in general or AR has to overcome over the next few years to be widely adopted by the public?
Can I take this? Sure. Okay, so we work for Meta, and it sucks after a while because you're wearing a brick on your face that's running at like 110 degrees, and like 4 hours into that, you just want to take a nap for the rest of the day. So that I'm being silly, not biting the hand that feeds here. I love VR, and they're a great client, but that's a real problem. You wear this thing, the battery lasts somewhere between 2 to 4 hours, depending on what you're doing. It's hot, even if you have AC and everything. It's not like we're out in the sun. but it's just it's fatiguing. It quite literally is fatiguing having it on. So Valve in their seminal game Half-Life, they planned the game to be like in 30-minute increments. So you could play it in about 30 to 45 or so minute increments. And I think that's a great idea. And that's a great way we should approach all of these things. Like that's like the maximum amount of time. It's like when you're in 2, 3, because we to build stuff for Meta, you had to literally do it in VR. You had to script and program inside VR, that's where it gets super exhausting because we're in this headset so many hours a day. It's just fatiguing. That's it. And that's a big thing that we need to like get over. Just the heat, the weight, the fact that it's just sitting here. If there's a way that we can improve that, make it lighter. Yeah, that's a big hurdle, I'd say. Yeah.
Yeah, I would say on the software side, Carlos mentioned earlier interoperability, and before even getting to interoperability, there's a concept of composability. So something I'm kind of dragging my team into helping me solve, where on the web today you have your JPEG or PNG. Everybody has their profile image of themselves, and you can take that from website to website to website and post it and share it and like it and all of these things, and it always works as you expect it to, and you can move that around throughout most of the internet. When it comes to a 3D model and the way that you expect a 3D model to animate, even from my one game to David's game to Kunal's game, it doesn't work that way.
Impossible.
I can't just give it to him and he just drops it into his experience in real time at runtime. That's like one of the larger challenges. This is where Carlos was mentioning, like, we're 10 years away from the metaverse until that can be solved, just because of how games and real-time experiences are currently programmed. It doesn't make it something that's consumer-friendly and shareable in an easy and accessible way. And so until that happens, we're still going to be having these small, isolated virtual world experiences that can't be easily shared, and then the cost of creation goes up exponentially because of that.
That's it.
Anything to add, Kunal?
I think they covered it for the most part. I do think that we're just stuck in this situation where we're on just all these different islands, and it's not a true metaverse. Just like the internet, you can go from website to website to website. That part has to be solved, the whole IRL to URL aspect. That's cool. And maybe AI will help with that. Like maybe it can infer something and then try to reproduce something or translate it, but that's a maybe.
So we have flirted with this conversation a little bit through the morning. We're talking about VR and AR and gaming in a lot of this conversation, but can you help us understand how that experience of mixed reality in gaming is applicable to non-gaming industries? Why it's something to look forward to?
Yeah, go for it. I'm the worst person to ask. I make games.
I like to say I learned about the metaverse and AR, VR before we started saying those terms. I learned about all of it here at ITSEC, and it used to just be called spatial computing. And that's really important because, especially for the military and for larger organizations, most organizations have spatial problems because we live in a 3D world physically, and that's where most of our problems exist, and that's what we're trying to solve. The technology that games use to create their 3D environments and create playful experiences is also helpful for solving and understanding and simulating these 3D problems that your businesses and organizations have today. A really good example is the transportation industry, where without simulation of 3D environments and geospatial environments, you wouldn't be able to get to a level of autonomous vehicles and create platforms on physical roads through digital technologies. A lot of this compute for 3D allows for companies like yourselves to be able to save on physical training and physical manufacturing by doing a lot of that virtually. And that's really like the big advantageous aspect. And then additionally to that, from a consumer side, like Kunal mentioned, the level of engagement that you get with JPEGs and texts on videos on a screen is incrementally getting more mundane for people, and keeping up with new, engaging, fun experiences, be able to take the level of a concert that somebody will spend, uh, the level of a concert and bring that into someone's home so that you can engage with them. That's going to be the competition that brands are going to have to create, because that's what the consumer expectation is growing towards. So I like to talk with companies about my 2-year-old baby sister, who, when I was 2 years old, my mom fortunately had a keyboard, so I learned how to type before I learned how to write. My baby sister can move in 3D space on a tablet, and that is her expectation. And so our companies are going to have to match that expectation when she gets to elementary and middle and high school and college and move onwards, because she's not going to want a 2D image. She's going to want to touch and play and feel. So.
There's two things that came to mind. There's like a saying, practice makes what? Perfect. And then how many hours does it take till you gain mastery of something? 10,000 hours, right? Like those are all repetitions, mental repetitions, physical repetitions, and like that virtual world is what allows us to do these repetitions. And even the AI that's being used in autonomous vehicles have to do training through repetitions. Repetitions in which snow is introduced or rain is introduced, or you think about like, I think even I heard the NFL, like quarterbacks are using this too, because it's like really expensive to have all these football players on the field. But for a quarterback, like mental repetitions matter. They go through so many plays, right? So if they keep going through all those virtually without all the people on the field, they still mentally have gotten better. So I think that's going to be an important aspect in that going into these games and these virtual worlds allow us to get to those 10,000 hours way faster than if we only had the real world, because we can't control other things in the real world. I can't get 30 people, to come help me train myself, but I could get 30 AI bots to do that.
I just want to add too, because we're at ITSEC and for simulation training, in the training environment, there's a concept of negative training, and we talk about that practice makes perfect, but it also makes permanent. And when you train improperly, you're training improper learning habits, and that gets really hard and expensive to break for somebody else and then retrain them effectively. So having better, effective instruments so that you can train and give people stronger ways to educate, but then also be able to validate that education and make sure that they're learning the right things is also a lot of the power that this technology has.
Agreed. Yeah.
Okay, fair enough. Concise answer. Could you tell me, I have two more questions for you. One of them, what is your vision for the future of mixed reality in everyday life?
Okay, so you highlighted a little bit about this, Kunal. So in the 90s, who had a LiveJournal? Blogger? Anybody? No? All right. I had a LiveJournal and a Blogger, and nobody knows what Blogger is, right? We had no, but Google bought it for $1 billion, and now we all have blogs and MySpace. Come on, somebody one. Okay, all right. Everybody was Tom's friend. The reality is now we all have social media, whether it's yours personal or your LinkedIn page or you've got one for your business, right? We've all got a social media presence. And 20 years ago, it was, what high schoolers and middle schoolers did. But here we are, we all have it. So what's 20 years from today, right? Where are we all going to have mixed reality experiences? I'd vote yes. I think we will. I think we'll have like little virtual hubs or homes that, much like a web browser, you can pop on and go visit, and you can bring IKEA stuff to like you showed earlier, right? Some of the furniture and stuff into your home. I think we could maybe preview your business or check it out virtually just by popping on a headset. Maybe it's not even headset. Maybe it's just glasses at that point. That's the future that we all want to get to. There are a lot of hardware limitations to get there, and there's a lot of problems to solve, and that's just the hardware side. Then there's like the actual computing power needed to get that there. But that's where all the ships are trying to get to. So whether we get there or not, I don't know. But that's at least where everybody is trying to get to. Yeah.
To talk about the past, the internet is, we used to say, the information age, where information was made accessible to everyone, and it was made to allow you to learn and consume whatever information that you as an individual chose to do. And so it gave the power of choice and the power of learning to everyone that had access to the internet in this kind of democratized sense. For mixed reality and for 3D content, rather than the information age, for what I see is it's more about the experience age, where you take the aspects of experience and what you want to experience in where you live, where you work, and where you play, and you get to choose how you want to experience that reality. And for some folks, they see that as like an aesthetic visual of, I'm going to make the sky pink, and that's great because that's how I want to see. And people will make that, and that'll be cool. But for me, it's more about, and we have at 302 what we say, turn everyday life into a playful experience. It's about integrating the aspects of what you want to do and how you want to interact with your work or your lifestyle in a playful way that makes you happy and healthy and joyful, and give you that choice to be able to do so. And there's this reason of why we talk about play at our company. There's a professor, Dr. Stuart Brown, who says the opposite of play is not work. The opposite of play is actually depression. And so if you can integrate play into everyday life, and you can take that and create environments for people to play, you're effectively counteracting this sense of depression, this sense of, I don't want to be here, which most folks feel at work or in their lifestyles today. So as we kind of get these new technologies and we're able to enable better experiences, the hope, the vision is that we can allow for people to get access to the type of work that they want to do or the type of experience they want to have in their day, and really engage them in ways that they can feel happier and healthier throughout their everyday life. So.
I think Kyle said it very well in all of this. I think in some way, all of us, what we really hope for is that we have choice in what's coming ahead. There's going to be some people who really want to be all in. They want Iron Man vision, RoboCop vision, all the time, things popping up. But, as humans, we can't take that much information all at once. So I hope that, we have the choice to determine what kind of mixed reality experience we do have. And maybe it's just as simple as when it's time for me to go to the next, dentist appointment, bing, it tells me in advance. And otherwise, I'm just, hearing a serene sound of trees rustling. And that, maybe that's all I want. So the mixed reality that a Buddhist monk has versus, a 13-year-old teen is going to be different, but the technology will be there. And I really hope that we do have that choice. Important things that are happening right now is the people that are training AI and making the software that will go on this mixed reality stuff, they really have to be thoughtful and mindful, because if they're not, they could be creating a really bad experience for everybody. They could be creating an unintentionally harmful or evil version of the darkest timeline that might happen. But if you are mindful and thoughtful about people, how they react, you have diversity, within the people that are training AI and making the software, it'll be useful for all of us. And that's really important stuff that we need to think about now, because that stuff is being built now. So when it comes out, you don't want it to be evil from the start.
I know when I picture a Buddhist monk, I always picture the headset on. So, final question for you. Why Orlando? Why Central Florida? Why are you establishing a business and a presence and a network here? Why is this a good place to work?
I lived in Los Angeles for 10 years. Why did I come here? Now, the honest answer is LA sucks. I could end there, but I'll keep going. The traffic sucks. We wanted to start a family. Education sucks. Listen, I loved California. It's hard to beat, but I have family nearby, and in Orlando with the theme park seemed cool, and that's about as far as I got. And I was like, oh, theme parks, and having lived and worked there, I really loved Los Angeles, but the hardest part was just simply traffic, cost of living, starting a family. You know, I have a $2,000 mortgage. That could get me like a 1-bedroom, no bathroom apartment in Los Angeles. So those are some differences. And those are real, by the way. Like we all saw work from home happen in COVID, and then so many people decided to leave. At least in the film and TV industry, on the animation side, there's a big problem because so many people left LA, but they're still part of the union. So how does that work? Because it only covers that district. Like, a lot of people left, and now the most famous is like Twitter, right? Twitter was work from home. Everybody, they made the big announcement: everybody's work from home. We don't need to come into the office. And then some schmuck buys it and forces everyone to get back into the office, and they all quit. So the reality is that like a lot of us like homes and more space, and cost of living is really important, and those are big drivers. And you combine that with like UCF is here. I honestly had no idea about the simulation industry until I got here and learned more about that. All of that kind of came together to form like, wow, this is actually a really great creative place to be in. So that's why I stayed, honestly. It's just as the weather's just as great. They have fires and earthquakes, and we just get, a bunch of rain once in a while, but it equals out. It equals out.
I think for the last few years I've been calling Orlando the home of digital experiences, and when a lot of folks talk about Meta and Snap and all of these companies that are building these 3D technologies, they build it a lot for entertainment. And in Orlando, what I've found just with our business alone, you have digital experiences in healthcare, in entertainment, in tourism, in attractions, in simulation training, in education. And what I found is all of these companies are really interested and focused here in Orlando in the same concepts of how can we use the talent and technology that's here in the local area. It's a great example, and apply that to our business. And so as a community, it's become just this kind of swirling share of knowledge as companies work together and collaborate, and new brands like the Meta Center form and rise and bring more people together in a way that most other communities and cities aren't really doing today. So that's exciting for me. I come from Miami and South Florida, and I came here for UCF, for engineering and game design, and the community as a whole, everyone that I talk to, no matter what industry, has this sense of these new technologies are coming, they're happening, we're excited, we're engaged. I mean, you guys invited us here to talk about it because of that same trend. That's why I'm here. It's exciting, it's a good community, and more importantly to me, when you talk about places like California and New York, and what I've seen of the startup culture, those cultures become very competitive, whereas
and
here
toxic.
Whereas here it's been extremely collaborative. I have friends that I should consider my competitors, and I don't. I consider them our collaborators, and we share work between each other when we have overflow. That community, that feeling is wonderful, and I hope to continue to stir that amongst our community and see that grow rather than see us turn into a competitive community. So.
Yeah, I think we have the chance now to really build the next 50 years of our identity of Orlando with the things that we're doing right now, that we've been doing over the past several years, and what we're doing right now. If I want corn, I would go to Iowa. If I want potatoes, I'd go to Idaho. But if I want digital media, this interactivity, then Orlando is the place for it. We have the density of the talent, of the education market that trains for that. We have the major industries that we have here. I don't think there's any other place on earth that has this much around us. But the thing is, there's that saying, connecting the dots. I think we have a lot of dots, and maybe not all the dots are connected. But as soon as we do that, then we'll have something that no other place does. Other places might have their dots connected, but maybe not as many dots. So I think that's really within the power of everybody in this room. Like Kyle was saying, this place is collaborative. you know? In other places, you know, that you may go and live, like, there are toxic elements. And you know, like, that part can be within our control to make certain it's tempered. And I think Orlando's a place where there's 1 degree of separation. I feel like for almost anybody. Like, you want to go and get in touch with Buddy Dyer, like the mayor, like, that's possible. That's not possible in many other places. Anybody that I need to reach, I feel I can do it. I can do it here. Now with all of you in the room, I hope I get to connect with each and every single one of you. Not gonna lie, like, I want that, you know? Might take a long time till we have all of our lunches, but I do want to get to know all of you, and that's possible in Orlando.
And also shout out to you at the game space. When I moved here, I'm like, now what? And your face and everything came up, and Sheena told me, oh, Orlando Game Space. What is this? Oh, it's a bunch of dudes who are just as nerdy as I am. Great. You know, so...
Ringing advertisement.
Right,
In some ways, yeah.
Non-gender specific. I say dudes for everybody. I call my wife a dude, all right? Kicks me out once in a while, but the point stands. But like, even this, Leadership Orlando, I had no idea until earlier in the week. And what a great community and group to just bring people together. Like, there's not a lot of that outside of this state. So that's great.
Well, I love the analogy of the dots, and us in Central Florida having all of those dots. Part of our mission is to identify them and then literally spend a day digging into all of them throughout this adventure that we're all on in Class 103 here. So I want to say thank you to Theory and 302 Interactive and Brand XR. Really appreciate your time. Let's give them all a round of applause. Thank you, gentlemen. All right, Lisa. What is our next? Whoa. There's a step there, by the way. Yeah.